Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming today. I'm Yuta, Fluentd maintainer at Treasure Data. And in this session, I'll talk about the overview and architecture and use case of Fluentd. My presentation is for those who are new to Fluentd. To begin with, I'll talk about the overview of Fluentd. Fluentd is an open source data collector. Fluentd is designed for handling streaming data with low latency. Fluentd has a flexible plugin system which allows users to extend its functionality. There are more than 900 community-contributed plugins. And Fluentd is implemented in Ruby. Users can use all Ruby libraries to implement their own Fluentd plugins. We provide users with several ways to set up and installation of Fluentd in your environment. Because we provide Fluentd as Ruby gems, you can use Fluentd just like a Ruby library. And also, we provide a Fluentd Docker image, so you can use Fluentd on Docker container with a few settings. We also provide packages for several OS, Ubuntu, CentOS, and Debian, and more. And Fluentd community provide a MSI package for Windows. You can run Fluentd on Windows, macOS, and Linux. And Fluentd documents show more detailed information, so please check it out. And Fluentd is a logging part of CNCF and 6 project to graduate. It is used in Kubernetes, and Fluentd can be used with other CNCF products. And Fluentd is also adapted as a logging agent at GCP. And this link, you can get more detail. And we have released Fluentd version 1.8 release candidate 3 recently. This version contains a lot of new features. I will mention them later. Please update to the latest version of Fluentd and give us feedback. This image shows how Fluentd solves existing programs. If you want to collect log data from Nginx, syslog, and Kafka to other data sources, such as another Kafka cluster or Amazon S3, Bigtable, or Elasticsearch. If you can't use Fluentd, you need to write a script to send, format, filter data from Nginx to S3 and from Nginx to Kafka. You also need all other components. It means that more data sources and data store increase as the more script you have to write. It's a tough and very boring task. Introducing Fluentd solves this kind of boring tasks. All you have to do is write Fluentd configuration file. Fluentd configuration file format is very simple and easy to understand. And there is no need to write your own script to send data from source to destination for each component. This is one of our Fluentd log collector with a streaming way. In this example, there are several servers, server A and server B and server C. And Nginx and Fluentd are running on each of the servers. Nginx writes access log to a local file, and Fluentd monitors the log. When the Nginx writes to the access log, Fluentd soon reads additional data and sends the data to the log server with low latency. Then you can analyze the log soon. It's good to analyze the hot data. And there were the very simple introduction of Fluentd. From the next page, I'll talk about the architecture and design of Fluentd and how Fluentd works. Fluentd is extendable and reliable software, so it has a lot of features to achieve them. Fluentd is composed two parts, a core part and a plugin part. The core part is responsible for managing plugins, multiple process and multiple thread, and error handling, and providing plugin helper and event routing. The core part manages the plugin, so load the needed plugin and configure them and run them properly. Fluentd runs supervisor worker model, so which run one supervisor and multiple workers. The worker actually receives data, and supervisor checks that each worker works correctly. And if the worker stops for some reasons, the supervisor restarts the worker automatically. Fluentd can flash log on multiple threads, and unfortunately, Ruby thread can't run parallelly except for I/O operation due to GIL, but it accelerates the speed of sending data in many cases. Core also handles both unrecoverable and retrievable error. If the unrecoverable error raises in a plugin part, core part outputs the error log and finishes Fluentd properly to try to avoid data corruption or data loss. If retrievable error raises, it may or may not output the error log and retrieve it properly. Also, core part provides user with plugin helpers. It makes it easy to implement a plugin in Fluentd way and makes the plugin reliable and efficient and easy to maintain. We provide a thread helper and socket helper and Parser helper and a lot of other useful helpers. Plugin part handle actual data. I'll explain this part later. So let me talk about the event structure. This is a Fluentd internal event structure. Fluentd handle data in this format internally. Event is composed of three parts: tag and time and records. Fluentd core route event by tag from one plugin to another plugin. So you can use it to identify where the data comes from and where the data should be sent. Time is event occur time. It has nanosecond precision as of Fluentd 0.14. Record is the actual log data, and which is formatted in JSON, not a raw string. JSON is a very useful, easy to understand format, and widely accepted by many services natively. So we decided to use JSON as the internal data structure. Next is plugin part. There are 6 parts of plugin: input, parser, filter, buffer, formatter, and output. Each of the plugin passes data to the next plugin. So input data, pass data to the parser, parser pass to the data to filter, and like that. And input plugin is for reading or receiving data from files or other services. And parser plugin parses data and builds specific structure. And filter plugin filter out or add additional data to events. And buffer plugin store data to memory, file, or other devices for persistent or efficient. A formatter plugin is used for formatting data for a specific format like JSON, CSV, message pack, or other formats. And the output plugin sends data to other server or data sources. I talk about input and parser plugin in more detail. Input plugin receives data. If the data is not structured data, use parser plugin to build structured data. And this is an example. If you use in HTTP plugin and JSON parser, Fluentd can handle HTTP posts request whose body is formatted in JSON. If the body is formatted in CSV instead of JSON, you can use CSV parser instead of JSON parser. So it's a very flexible and easy to make use of it. And if you want to handle the NGX access log file, you can handle it with Intel plugin and NGX parser plugin. Filter plugin is for transforming event into a specific form. For example, the situation where you want to add a host name to data to identify where the data come from for analysis, you can make it with a record transformer filter plugin. Another example is if you know the data with a specific prefix is invalid, so you want to delete such data before storing data into a data store. You can use a grep filter plugin for that situation. And filter plugin is chainable, so you can use multiple filter plugin at the same time. And next is the buffer plugin. Buffer plugins store data before flashing. It's quite important for performance. Some output plugin is not optimized for a lot of small chunk of data. So such plugin need to merge a small chunk of data into one large data for data injection. Fluentd provides file buffer and file single buffer and memory buffer plugins. File single is a new plugin. File single buffer is new plugin we introduced in version 1.7. It works faster than file buffer, but it has some limitation. We recommended file buffer plugin and file single buffer plugin should be used in your production environment since they store data in persistent disk. It avoids data loss when Fluentd stops unexpectedly. Format plugin is used for formatting data in like JSON, CSV, or other formats. And output plugin send data to other node or other cloud services. And you can also just write data in local file with output plugin, not send data to the other services. So if you want to write data to local file system and data should be formatted in JSON, you can use out file plugin and format JSON plugin. And if you want to save data in Amazon S3, you can use out S3 plugin. And if you want to send data to other Fluentd node, we provide special plugin outward for such purpose. Next is use case for Fluentd. I'll show the use case and its actual configuration. As the first example, I talk about the Fluentd monitors the NGX access log file and NGX output access log to the local file. Fluentd monitors it, and once change occurred, read it and send it to the Elasticsearch. This is the actual configuration for such purpose, such situation. Source section are left ops. Source section is for input plugin, and the parser section, which is located in source section, is for parser plugin, and write ops match section is for output plugins. We use Intel as input plugin and use NGX parser as a parser plugin. Intel plugin monitors a text file, and once the change occurred, it reads data. Its behaves is similar to the tail-f command. Intel plugin can track log rotation. If the access log is rotated by NGX, Intel can track it automatically. And it is able to remember the position where Intel already has read. So if you stop Fluentd and restart it, and duplicated data reading won't happen. And this example, path is varlog NGX access log, and pause file is varlog Fluentd tail pos. Pass indicate the target file position, and pos file is the file path for recording the position it last read into the file. And attach the tag up access left to bottom side, and use Elastic Search Output plugin. Fluentd routes event by tag, so it is indicated at match sections argument. In this case, if the event has app.something tag, these events are routed and stored in Elastic Search Output plugin. So entire data is routed to Elastic Search Output plugin since entire data is attached app access at left bottom configuration. And sometimes users want to send data to multiple data stores. We support these cases. In this example, NGX access log data is sent to both Elasticsearch and Amazon S3 with Fluentd. Input plugin is inter plugin, and output plugin is copy plugin. Copy plugin copies single input to multiple destinations. Tailed event whose tag is app access are routed to copy output plugin, and copy plugin copy routed data to Elasticsearch output plugin and S3 output plugin. Then Elasticsearch and output S3 output plugin send data to their destination. If you want to add more destination, you can do it by adding the store section inside the match section of copy output plugin. And Fluentd support multi-tier forwarding. This is mainly for high traffic environment. Fluentd has own protocol to communicate with other Fluentd nodes. We provide in-forward plugin and out-forward plugin for such purpose. And forwarders uses out-forward plugin to send data to an aggregator, and meanwhile, an aggregator uses in-forward plugin to receive event from a forwarder. Out-forward has a lot of features, so I'll explain them. Out-forward can send data in at most one semantics and at least one semantics. It can avoid data losses between forwarders and aggregators. And if the aggregator crashes for some reason, out-forward plugin can fail over to another aggregator. So it can avoid the data stacking. And also, Fluentd out-forward plugin can balance the load of sending data. So out-forward can register multiple aggregator as destination. So there is two aggregator A and B, and aggregator A land on the higher spec machine than B. You can route more load to A than B to use resources more efficiently. And keep alive connection is also supported. The forwarders doesn't close the connection after sending data, so you can reduce the connection overhead. Because we don't have enough time, so I can't show the actual configuration about this. Multi-tier forwarding, very important and useful feature in Fluentd. So there's a documentation about it on Fluentd document, so please check it. Next, Docker and Kubernetes. I'll talk about how Fluentd collect log data on container environment. First, I'll talk about the resources Fluentd on Docker and Kubernetes environment. We provide two types of Docker images. One is community-based image, and another is the Docker official one. A community-based support multiple versions of Fluentd, and base image is Alpine and Debian. Docker official image support only one version of Fluentd, version 1.6, but they support a lot of architecture, AMD, and PowerPC, and other environment. On Kubernetes, we provide Kubernetes Daemonset. These images have several destinations, Elasticsearch, Kafka, or others, so you can use them easily to send data to each destination. I'm not sure about the Helm chart, but Helm chart provides Fluentd images as a stable version. So if you use a Helm chart, you can use these packages. There are three approaches to run Fluentd on container environments. The first is mount volume. Application container and Fluentd share the host server's file system. And second is sending data via library. This is flexible, but need to implement such libraries in each language. Our third is a logging driver. Fluentd can be used as a Docker logging driver by default, and I talk about these patterns more detail. Next page. The first approach is shared data volume. This is a basic but powerful way to get log in Docker environment. Docker has a feature mounting host server's file system. So Fluentd run on a host server directory and application container. In this example, NGX container. Mount the host server's file system. And Fluentd watches mounted volume. So this example shows the NGX container mount NGX logs on host server into varlog NGX in NGX container. Fluentd monitor mount NGX log on host server with Intel plugin. We can track NGX access log with these settings on container environment. The second approach is sending data via library. In the same example, fluent-logger. Fluent-logger is a client library to send data to Fluentd. There are many implementations in each language, so fluent-logger, Ruby, Go, Java, Scala, and etc. And you can send any format of data in this approach. But if you want to use this approach in a new language, you may need to implement your own fluent-logger. In this example, using fluent-logger Python to send data whose tag is app event purchase, and Fluentd receive data with in forward. In forward, as I said earlier, can receive data from outward plugin, and also it can be used for receiving data from fluent-logger. Docker provides a logging driver mechanism which sends a log to external host or other logging services. Docker supports fluent-logger driver by default. This logging driver sends container log to Fluentd as a structured log data. This logging driver captures a container output to std-out and std-error and send data to Fluentd with container ID and container name. And although this approach can't be used in the Kubernetes, it is useful for simple Docker environment. This is Kubernetes Daemonset approach. This approach is similar to a shared volume approach. Kubernetes creates symbolic links to Docker log files at varlog containers directory. You run Fluentd as Daemonset and use Intel plugin to get container log data from varlog NGX, varlog containers directory. Kubernetes Daemonset uses this kind of code to send Kubernetes container logs to other nodes, Elasticsearch, Kafka, or like that. In the end, there are important announcements and some latest update about Fluentd. Announcement is that we plan to drop the support for all the Ruby and Fluentd at the end of this year. We wrote up the article about our plan, so please check this link. And drop version is Ruby 2.1 to 2.3, and Fluentd version 0.12, and TD Agent 2.3. These Ruby versions are very old, so Ruby core team no longer supported these versions. And Fluentd version 0.12 is already in security maintenance mode. So we already stopped developing a new feature in this version. So I hope it's not a big impact on user. The reason why we do this is that it becomes hard to maintain these versions and for better development environment. If all Fluentd is running in your environment, please update them. Thank you for your cooperation in advance. And there are some updates since our last KubeCon CNCF-con, which were held in China. Our current version is version 1.8, release candidate 3, and we will soon release version 1.8. And I'll talk about a new feature on this version. First, we support service discovery helper. This allows you to set destination dynamically. So now Outward already uses this helper. So in the multi-tier situation, you can add new destination or drop existing destination dynamically. And it's very useful when you want Fluentd to scale in or scale out. And next is file single buffer plugin. A file buffer plugin manages metadata and actual data. Metadata store data of the actual data, so actual data's size and updated time and created time and chunk ID. Metadata and actual data are managed in separated files. So file chunk plugin manages 2 files for 1 chunk. We found that writing both metadata and actual data was overhead, so we developed a faster version of file buffer plugin for very simple situation. And if you use Fluentd in production environment, you monitor the Fluentd itself. We increase the metrics which make monitoring Fluentd easy. If you are using Prometheus plugin or Monitor Agent plugin, you can get more metrics by this change. And there are a lot of other features and bug fixes for Fluentd. Thank you for your contribution. And this is a summary. Fluentd is designed for streaming log collection. Fluentd is very flexible, and there are a vast number of committee contributed plugins. And Fluentd run on a lot of environment, multiple OS on Docker environment. And Fluentd logging driver is implemented in Docker by default. So you can use it with a very few configuration. And this is a very important news. We plan to drop the support of Ruby and Fluentd at the end of 2019. That's it. Thank you for listening. Sorry.
If I want to read the data from Oracle and then put it into Elasticsearch, so what kind of input plugin do you
Do you have mic? Sorry, I can hear.
If I want to read the data from Oracle database and then put it into Elasticsearch, so what kind of plugin, input plugin do you recommend for Oracle?
Digda.
Do you have any plugin?
For Digda?
For Oracle.
Article? What is
Oracle database.
Oracle database there.
SQL plugin has a feature for execute the SQL to the data from the RTKMS. But the Oracle worker is works with this plugin, so it's easy to check what the adapter is working with.
Hey, oh, you're first.
Test, test.
Excuse me, we just got the mic for the questions, so everybody can hear.
Thank you. My question is, we are currently using Fluentd for Ruby 2.3. You said that you're dropping the support, so what should we use in its place? What's the upgrade path, suggested upgrade path?
Next, Ruby version 2.4 to 2.6.
Oh, okay, just the newer versions of Ruby.
Yes, yes, please, newer version of Ruby.
Thank you.
Thanks. I love Fluentd. Anyways, so there are like two, I guess like different Fluentds now. Like there's like Fluentd and Fluentbit. Like in terms of that, like what's the future for Fluentd? Is that like is a plan is to replace Fluentd with Fluentbit? What's the relationship between those two?
Fluentbit is very useful in this example. Maybe Fluentbit is good, better than Fluentd in forwarder. Very small resources.
Okay.
So, but Fluentd has a lot of plugins than Fluentbit. So maybe you can use Fluentbit forwarder and use a Fluentd on aggregator. If you don't use aggregator, so you can just use only Fluentbit. Yeah.
I see. Because like a lot of features are like like you can do a lot of stuff with Fluentbit too. Like you can like probably like make this like all with Fluentbit. There's like a lot of like duplicate features. Just I want to see like is the Fluentd team going to maintain like both softwares, or is that going to be like one or the other later? Oh yeah.
He's a Fluentd maintainer.
Yeah, from a company perspective, Treasure Data created Fluentd. And when the project was created, we envisioned that we were going to need, in a few years later, a different version, lightweight, that could integrate with Fluentd. That's where Fluentbit born. Okay, now from a team perspective, for us, it's not Fluentd or Fluentbit. It's both are developed in parallel. We try to solve the same problems, but as you can see, for example, Fluentd has 1,000 plugins. Fluentbit are 50. Sometimes you need more aggregation features, which Fluentd is a good fit. Maybe you just need to forward data. Maybe Fluentbit is a good fit. So there's no plan to replace any tool with the other. We are the same team and the companies behind them. I'm talking about ARM, Treasure Data, Datadog, Google Cloud Platform. All of them are investing in both projects. So you can trust in both, and both projects are part of the CNCF. So this is not longer a company project, they are a community project.
Thank you. My question is, if I have many microservices in Kubernetes, what is the best way to send logs to Elasticsearch? For example, run Fluentd or like sidecar or a Daemonset for generate filter in the Elasticsearch best option to share logs per microservice.
So your question is the best way to Fluentd in your microservices?
Exactly.
So it depends on your environment, but if you're using Kubernetes, so Intel using Fluentd as a Daemonset is better, I think.
I can generate multiple filters in the Fluentd for get logs in many microservices. Okay, thank you.
That's it.
More questions? Okay, I think that's it. Thanks, Yuta.
Thank you.